we actually need the knees to go over the toes. In fact, if you try to do a squat where you purposely keep the knees behind the toes, the hips have to get shoved back and you immediately change what would otherwise be a squat into a more hingy squat. And actually, instead of performing a squat, you're actually more performing a hinge. My name is Greg Chaff. I'm a certified strength and conditioning specialist and physical therapist. And in this video, we're going to cover knee position during squatting. We're going to talk about why knees going over toes is actually a myth. We'll discuss why some people actually have discomfort when the knees go over the toes. And then we're going to discuss the knee moving in excessively during squatting and why the remedy for this might also be the remedy for discomfort when the knees go over the toes. So before we get into this video, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you'll know when I upload a new video. If you like this one, slap a like on this video, and if you have any questions, leave them below in the comments, and we'll follow up either in the comments or in a future video. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So first of all, let's answer what is a squat. And to answer this question, we're going to compare the squat to another common movement pattern known as the hinge. So in a hinge, our hips actually move back and then forward, and you'll commonly see this in deadlift type variations. And then the opposite of that is going to be when the hips move more straight up and down. So your squat is going to be much more of a vertical displacement, going down, back up, versus your hinge, which is going back and then forward back to the initial starting position. So why is this important for our discussion? This is important because in order for us to keep that vertical relationship between the torso and the hips and have that relatively vertical descent we see in the squat, we actually need the knees to go over the toes. In fact, if you try to do a squat where you purposely keep the knees behind the toes, the hips have to get shoved back and you immediately change what would otherwise be a squat into a more hingy squat. And actually, instead of performing a squat, you're actually more performing a hinge. So when we're looking at the gym, our squattiest variations would be where the knees actually get pushed over the toes and we have that horizontal path of the pelvis. And then some of our less squatty squats, like a barbell back squat, for example, are actually where the knees stay relatively behind the toes, hips get shifted back, and then we come back up. Now there's all sorts of gradations about how squatty your squat might be, and later in this video we're going to show you a way to maximize the squattiness of your squat. So stay tuned till the end for that. So now why is it that some people have discomfort when squatting with their knees going beyond their toes? And to figure out the answer to this, we have to look up a little bit further in the chain. So if we keep that good relationship of the upper body stacked over the lower body and we go straight down with the pelvis as the knees come forward, typically that is not going to produce discomfort. However, if we let the upper body and the pelvis dump forward and we get this anterior orientation of the pelvis, the spine, and the rib cage atop of the legs, then we're actually going to be jamming our upper leg bone a lot of times into the back of the knee, and we'll have a little bit of irritation on the back of the kneecap or in the front of the knee on some of these more sensitive structures, whether it be on the inside, the outside, or straight down the center. Now the remedy for this is going to be just the same as the remedy that we're going to talk about for why you might have an issue with your knee going in during a squat. So why is it that our knee might be going in during a squat? As we previously talked about, when we have that anterior orientation of the pelvis, the spine, and the rib cage on top of those upper legs, we are getting pushed forward with our center of mass in space. And what that does is as this pelvis tips forward, the socket actually starts to face a different direction. The muscles here assume a different orientation, and we pick up a lot of leverage to then turn the leg into what is traditionally known as internal rotation or even adduction, a little bit of that leg. And so what that will do is it'll give us the appearance of squatting with our knees coming together. And of course, if that's our only movement option, this could be potential risk for injury down the line. So it's not that this position is always bad, but if that's your only option, this might actually lead to injury down the road. Now, how is it that we're going to go about fixing these two issues? So first and foremost, the thing that these two issues have in common is, again, that relationship of everything coming forward in space more than we want in the upper body, the spine, and also the pelvis. So we're going to get our weight shifted back by just simply letting everything come back as a unit. You're going to feel the weight come down into your heels. Now, as the weight comes down into your heels, you're going to unlock your knees and let your lower back relax so that your hips naturally tuck under. From this position, you're going to do a long exhale, and you're going to feel the lowermost ribs gently coming together. This is going to produce a stacked position of the rib cage atop the pelvis, and the spine's going to go along for the ride here. Hopefully you also have your head stacked over your shoulders too, and then you'll be in that perfect stacked position. Then you're going to try to maintain that position and think about letting everything come down as a unit as the knees bend forward and the weight stays in the heels. And then that's going to look a little bit like this, and you'll see I stay relatively upright and stacked through the upper and lower body. The knees actually come well ahead of the toes, but I'm not jamming that upper leg into the back of the kneecap or into any of those structures in the front of the knee because of the weight distribution staying back on the heels throughout the entire movement. Now, when we go to some of our single leg activities, this will be exactly the same. So this is where we're typically going to see more of an issue with that inner deviation of one leg, although we can also see this in the more symmetrical variations, but we're going to go through that same checklist. So let's say we're doing a split squat here and we have one foot ahead of the other. We're going to first get our weight shifted back so we feel a little bit more weight on the base of the big toe of the back foot and the heel of the front foot. We're going to let the lower back relax as we bend that front knee and kind of slink down just a little bit. We'll do our long full exhale, get the ribs to come down. Now we should have that perfect stacked position. Then we're going to imagine coming straight down through that back knee, getting our whole upper body to be stacked right up in a line over the hips and also over that back knee. Then we're going to go down and up straight like this. So from that side view, again, we're stacked almost more in line with that back knee. We're going to go straight down and straight up. And as you can see, that front knee actually does have to translate over the toes, just the same as we saw in the squat as well. Now, for all you who are still watching, first of all, thank you. Second of all, I'm going to make good on my promise from earlier. I'm going to show you a way that you can automatically make your squat as squatty as possible. So for this, you're going to need a wedge, and you're also going to need a small weight. So first, if you don't have a wedge, you can just use your small weight. What your weight is going to do is it's going to act as a counterbalance. So you can hold this in front of the body like this, and you're going to reach the weight forward as you reach your body backwards. And again, this is everything moving as a unit, so think of this more as a trust fall. Then from this position, if you have a wedge, you're going to step up onto the wedge. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow the ground to come up into your heels, and it's going to bias us towards mechanics that are associated with the earliest phase of gait, so that earliest stance phase. And in that phase, we're going to be maximally shifted back, and our butt's going to be in a little bit of a tuck. Now from here, if we keep the weight shifted back, we let the knees bend forward, we get that stacked position, then we can come down much more easily into the squattiest of squats, and that's going to look a little bit like this. And as you can see, this is pretty much going just straight up and down, just like a piston in a cylinder. Knees shoot forward over the toes, but I got the weight shifted back, so there's no inner movement of the knees there at all. This is what that looks like from the front view. So again, reaching forward with the weight, leaning back against that, into that trust fall kind of feel. Weight is in the heels, knees slightly bent, butt is naturally going to tuck under. And then we're going to go straight down, knees coming forward, perfectly in line with the hips and the feet, and then back up. So there you have it, folks. Whether your knees are going in or you're getting pain with knees going over your toes, you're going to be able to use this strategy that we talked about in this video to take care of both of those issues. So don't be afraid to have your knees going over your toes when you squat. And if that knee is coming in, check your center of mass first, and it should clean right up. Thanks a lot for watching today's video. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you'll know when I upload a new video. If you liked it, go ahead and leave me a like below. And if you had a question, leave it in the comments section. We'll get back to it either by answering it down below or making a follow-up video. Until next time, thanks a lot for watching once again, and peace.